Hey there, Chris at A to B here. We're back at it again. We're going to mess with this Dodge steering column again today. Just got this running. The 74 or 75 Ford F100 chassis and drivetrain. Belongs to another customer of mine that they're going to be putting a older 40s pickup truck cab on this, but it's 362 barrel with a C6 automatic. So it's actually from parts left over from one of Jackson's truck project. So just converted it to points, got away from the Motorcraft electronic ignition and put a internally resisted 12-volt coil on it, so it's simple for the customer to just put on one 12-volt wire and it will run. So he should be coming to pick this up in just a little bit. So anyway, I want to try to get this column in there today, at least get the truck where it's mobile and functional and I can steer it manually while I hook up the electronic stuff. So we'll go over this again for those who weren't here for it. So this Frankenstein's monster of a steering column, top section is a 69 Dodge D200 steering column. Nothing special about it, just a straight column with a straight shaft in the center of it. Cut about 12 inches out of the column and had a custom made bushing here to adapt it to a 2005 Toyota Prius electric assist steering system, electric power steering system. And then this is a bottom section off of the original column. This is another section out of the bottom of it that cut off to span the distance from the gearbox to the floor, and then shorten the original steering shaft down here, using a Borgeson adapter inside here that adapts the Toyota splines to a 3/4 inch shaft. The shaft end in here, actually you can see it right through that little slot in the column right there. There is actually a splined Toyota column that made the original federally mandated collapsible column that the Prius had to have. The Dodge did not have to have that in its day. But that coupler, that splined coupler in there that allowed the Toyota column to squish up in the event of an accident, actually made a perfect adapter that we just had to weld up the end of the Dodge shaft I had to cut it to length. I had to shorten it to fit because the Prius column actually this electric steering gearbox actually comes to right about here. There's a steel snout that sticks out of that and comes up to about here. So I actually had to shorten the steering top shaft down and then weld it up and turn it down to join it to the inside diameter of the Toyota splined adapter inside there. And then we pinned it. See, I don't know if we're low. Yeah, you can just barely see the pin squeaking by right there. It's pressed together, bored through, pinned, the pin pressed into it, and then that pin is peened over on both sides. And then it is double welded. There's a better view of the pin from that angle. But then it is double welded for safety. The Borgeson adapter on this end of the column did the same thing to it. It is pinned and welded also. So none of that stuff is going to be a problem. I don't think. It's all fairly straightforward. And then that was done by a machine shop. So anyway, let's go ahead and go out here and see if we can get this thing to go in this truck. If all my measurements are right, it should line back up with the original stuff. Hopefully I can get it to where you can see everything. and I don't get too much in the way when I'm trying to do this, as most of this has to be done from inside the truck. All right, well, let's see if this works. I want to show you something here. The steering box on these Dodges is old school setup. I mean, because this truck, I think this body style of Dodge truck started in like '61. So the steering box is like right there underneath the cab floor. So I've seen these adaptions made where people have actually like cut the floor out and then sunk the whole Toyota thing in and done a direct adapter between here, but there's cab mounts and stuff involved right here. And there's a lot of structure. There's a lot of structure right on the other side of here. I didn't feel that was the way to go for me because I handle heavy metal and heavy thick metal better than I do sheet metal, so I'm no body man. So that's what I did. I ended up, so our steering electric steering will be up in this area off the floor. So anyway, it does clear the pedal and everything, and you'll see that in a minute. Get the camera back in the phone holder here. This is real hard to do because you can't see any of it. There we go. Well, so far it's fitting like I intended. Let me go out here and make sure I'm where I'm at on the gearbox. Let me go grab a pry bar. I'm gonna have to bring it up just a hair, and I gotta move the entire column. Okay, what I am trying to do, hold on just a second. I apologize for the shaky camera work, and I may have to set you down, but what I'm trying to do is I've got to pry this coupler up a little bit so this bolt right here will drop all the way in. Let's see if I can leave you lay here. I don't know if the phone's going to sit here while I do this or not. The reason I had to do that is there is a safety cut around that. I should have shown you that before I put the column in, but there's a cut around that provides a place for the bolt shank to pass through, that makes the bolt shank actually fit into the splined shaft. In case that bolt comes loose, that coupler can't come up off of there. Sorry, I need an extra hand. So I'm going to go ahead and tighten this bolt up here, then we'll move back inside the cab. So here we are back inside the cab. And this is where the gearbox will, or the electronic stuff will reside. Obviously this situation probably wouldn't work if this truck was a stick. I don't know, if it was a manual, the clutch pedal would be hanging from right about here. So you would probably have to try to tuck this up. Maybe if you tucked it up against the floor a little farther, you can get it to work. But I'm just glad this truck's an automatic and I didn't have to deal with that. So yeah, this column isn't going to be able to support all of the torque because this motor is going to try to turn either way. So this is pretty solid right here, but I'm going to build a bracket that comes, it's kind of dark up in there, but that comes from the brake booster down to probably this bolt right here. Put a longer one in there to strap that in, so hopefully that'll counteract the torque on this. They don't torque very much, but they do torque a little bit. So anyway, that's about the installation of it. I'm going to get this floor plate put together and then we'll start figuring out the wiring. This floor plate, it's kind of a pain in the butt, but I got a seal I got to put in there too, but it just kind of goes together like that with these great big funky flathead Phillips screws that have like a washer made on them. So anyway, that's all that's special about that. It did fit like I intended for it to. And the other thing I missed on the description when I described the column there at the beginning of the video, obviously this truck has a quarter stick shifter in it, so the park reverse neutral is not needed on the shifter up here anymore, but the customer did want the lever still here. So what I did, I cut the mechanism off about 6 inches below the top of the column, so it's all still in there and it still supports it and it will still move, but it does absolutely nothing now. So anyway, that's that. So I'm gonna get this floor buttoned up and then we'll get back to building that bracket and getting it wired up. All right, setting up and finishing up the installation of this steering column. Already got to check that on camera, or get that on camera, but got a bracket built here. It just attaches to this one bolt hole. Got a spacer underneath here to space up over this gearbox. Had to notch it around the motor, and then it attaches up there in the top to one of the master cylinder or power brake booster mounts. During the function check, this thing really didn't torque much, so I don't know that this bracket was really needed, but it's not hurting anything either. So I'd rather get it on there now than it'd have to come back later to get that sorted out. So that's looking good. Got the module mounted up there underneath the dash and got the wiring sorting the wiring out. And we'll get back to that in just a minute. I got to put a toggle switch in there to turn it off and on. But otherwise, everything's going pretty good with it, and the customer's already seen it during the function check and he was super happy with it. So hopefully everything else comes together. I don't see any other problems, so we'll get this thing finished up. Well, I don't know if you can hear me or not, but I'm pretty happy with how this turned out. So we're sitting on the ground right now, one arm steering, just to prove we're sitting on the ground. It'll go lock to lock. So I'm pretty happy with how this one turned out. I think we'll call this one a win. So it does have a 5-second delay on startup, which is something the Prius, everybody else on Prius, nobody seemed to mention that. There is a 5-second delay before you have power steering when it starts, but as you can hear from the cam in this truck, it's got to warm up anyway, so 5 seconds really don't matter. So anyway, thanks, like and subscribe.